I only focus on what's truly highest in priority in my life. The thing that I feel it's impossible for me not to do. It's my destiny. That's what I focus on, and I delegate the hell out of stuff. I'm good at teaching, researching, and writing and traveling. That's it. I'm useless outside that. So I have everybody else do everything else. I haven't driven a car in 32 years. I've got the pilots, the chauffeurs, I got the captain, I got the cleaners, the people that shop. I delegate everything, so I just do what I am core competently capable of doing. And that liberates. If people would do that, it liberates. Because anytime you're doing lower party things that you need some sort of external motivation to do, you devalue yourself. And if you go and do what you absolutely love to do and inspired by it, there's no friction. And if you learn the art of taking whatever happens in your life and asking, how is it on the way, not in the way? How's it helping me fulfill my mission? Nothing really interferes with your life. It's all perception. We have control over our perception, decisions, and actions. So we might as well take our perceptions and turn them into opportunities too. And then take our actions and put it. If we take our perceptions and link them to our highest value, and we take our actions and live by our highest priority, and make a decision to either change our perception or change our actions and delegate things. And people say, "Well, that's nice. He's got wealth and stuff." No, I was a street kid. I got wealth because I did that. I got wealth because I did that, not because I had wealth. Then I
Yeah.
did it.
So
I got wealth.
where does that limiting belief come with people? Why do so many people struggle with delegation? Or is it they're struggling with the delegating, the passing of it off, or is it they're struggling with the losing of control?
It's lots of things. Thousands of years ago, human beings were supposedly nomadic, right? It seemed that we lived in nomadic environment. And then we started doing sedentary life where we, started planting cultures. So when we did that, we started to differentiate our specialties instead of doing everything. And we were not as effective doing everything as we were when we got our specialties. So our specialties made it where we became dependent on other people. And so the fear of rejection from other people and fear of banishment and exile from people, the fear of rejection from society became more and more important to people. And they want to fit in because they didn't survive if they didn't. And so it's an instinct now not to lose, acknowledgement from people, and to have the impulse to be completely independent is frightening. And the fear of losing acknowledgement is frightening because you might banish. So that's their deep instincts and impulses sitting inside us. So most of us are afraid to go against the herd. And so whatever the herd says, which is mediocrity, I mean, the herd is not the Nobel Prize winners. The herd is not the gold medal. The herd is not the big CEOs of the companies. The herd is not you know, Olympic medalist. The herd is the average. So if we don't transcend the impact of the herd, we're going to not get herd. I always say, instead of following a culture, build a culture. I'm a firm believer in just building a culture. So I'd rather go build my own friggin' culture than just follow some system that's out there. So I think that's what holds people back, is they're afraid to go against the herd. They're afraid to just give themselves permission to be different. But everybody, when I ask people, how many of you want to make a difference in the world, they all put their hands up. How are you going to make a difference fitting in? You're going to make a difference standing out.
What I really wanted to spend some time on here today is designing a master plan for our life. I heard you recently talk about like this. I don't know how many thousands of pages, and I know you've spent your entire life creating this master plan. Can you kind of share with us how you document everything you do? And I think that we can maybe really spend some time here, really unpacking that for people, because I think in order to transcend the herd, in order to create an impactful life, in order to reach fulfillment, reach meaning, reach purpose, like we have to start with a plan of what it is we actually want to accomplish. So how have you kind of documented your life?
What I do is, I started when I first started doing my master plan. Well, I wrote down what I knew. I started with what I knew. Okay, so when I first started my master plan, I was 17, and I said I want to learn how to read, because I was a learning disabled as a child. I didn't read till I was 18. I wanted to learn how to read. I wanted to learn how to speak because I had a speech impediment as a child. And that's the reason I also left school, because school I didn't pass. And I didn't really run away from home exactly, because my parents didn't kick me out or I didn't leave. I had fantastic parents, but they saw that I wasn't going to make it in school, and they saw that I wanted to go surfing. So I took off surfing. and lived at the beach and then hitchhiked to California and down into Mexico. And I wanted to go around the world surfing. So that was my thing. And my parents said, at least you're going to excel at something. You might as well do that. I wrote down what I knew. I knew I wanted to overcome my learning problems. I knew I wanted to learn how to speak properly. I knew I wanted to learn how to read. And I wanted to be somehow intelligent. I didn't want to be I had to wear a dunce cap when I was in first grade. So I wanted to be intelligent. And I wrote those down. And that led me to eventually getting a dictionary and memorizing 30 words a day in a dictionary until my vocabulary was strong enough. And my mom, when I eventually moved back to Texas when I was 18, my mom tested me on 30 words a day and how to pronounce them, how to pronounce them properly, how to describe the meaning of it. And I would work part of the day on 30 words and just memorize the words and recite. I had to write them out 20 times with a definition. And just every day we put 30 more words in there. At the end of 2 years, that's 20,000 words. So I went on back to school then, and then I started to excel. And I started writing down my goals as they came, but I only wrote things that I felt were certain. I didn't want to write fluffy stuff. I knew I wanted to travel the world. So I wrote down, I want to step foot on every country on the face of the earth.
How are you gauging certainty? I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you here, but I'm really curious how you're gauging like the certainty in yourself.
If I'm having any anxiety, see, anytime you're in your amygdala and not in your executive center, your amygdala wants to avoid pain and seek pleasure, and it wants to set up fantasies. And whenever you have a fantasy, your intuition comes in with an anxiety to say, hey, BS, 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 BS. And so when I would hear that BS, 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 I would hear this anxiety. Who are you to say that? Was that crazy? You can't do that. How are you going to do that? And everything else. And I would just start with what I had no noise. See, that doubting words inside us is not our enemy. It's a guide to set real objectives, not fantasies. And many people have a fantasy that's not strategically planned into an objective, which is what the executive center does. It mitigates the risks and gives you a real strategy on how you can achieve this so your vision is clear. And I stick to those. And so I wrote it down. I even have the vision that I actually started with that's painted in my office right now. It's 5 foot by 4 foot big painting of the vision that I started. But I wrote out exactly how I wanted it. And I would sometimes spend an hour on one paragraph, 2 hours on a paragraph, defining it exactly how I want. So if I want to go to every country, I went and started looking at what is every country on the planet. I made a list of them alphabetically. Then I said, okay, I want to go and speak there. I want to go and educate there. I want to, travel that world. So I started looking at all the major hotel ballrooms, all the convention centers, all the theaters. And when online came later on in life, I could just cut and paste those. But I went on and I went to American Express Travel Service and I said, I want a brochure from every country around the world. So I could cut out pictures of where these places were. So I was very much doing the secret stuff before the secret came out, a long time ago. But I was very detailed about that, and I still am. And I've got this 33 volume collection of goals, metrics, gratitudes, objectives sitting in my possession now.
Yeah, and it's that level of detail when people are hearing at one point in your life, you owned 11 houses, like you live on this world ship and you travel and speak to reach millions of people. And it's like 9/11 hit, wife needs a helicopter, order a private helicopter, order a private jet, fly across the world. It's like, how can this guy do this? Because the level of detail that you're executing your vision starting from, like, it's gotta happen. So I want to come back to that point when you're, maybe we're talking about this amygdala here. We're kind of feeling this anxiety and fear. So that initial kind of doubt surfaces. You don't accept the first doubt as like, no, I can't do this. How do you begin to process this and get it moving into the executive center so you can begin to think more clearly?
The executive center sets an objective.
Okay.
Objective means neutral. That means you've thought out every positive that you want and you thought out every negative that's going to come with it. Because haven't you ever gone out on a date with somebody you thought was going to be, wow, it's going to be more advantages and disadvantages. And then a day, a week, a month, a year, 5 years later, you went, ooh, fatal attraction. Didn't think about that. Didn't think about that. Didn't think about that. And it grounded you back to see that there's a pair of opposites, there's benefits and drawbacks to every relationship. Well, objective is not waiting through the fantasy with anxieties to get to the objective. It's looking for the downsides and obstacles and preparing for them and mitigating them in advance. Elon Musk doesn't make it to Mars without foresight. He has engineers there and specialists in there thinking of every possible thing that could go wrong. And how do we mitigate that? How do we solve that in advance? Foresight is way more powerful than hindsight. When they did the James Webb Telescope and they launched that baby into place, they hired 13 companies to scrutinize their strategy and to make sure there's no flaws in it. 13 companies were hired to make sure, is there anything you can see that could go wrong here, go wrong here, go wrong here? So an objective is something that you're not wanting positive thinking on. You're wanting balanced thinking on. What is it that I want to accomplish? What are the challenges and the obstacles I might run into, and how do I solve in advance so I'm prepared? So if this happens, plan B, plan C, plan D, plan E, plan F, no problem. I'm prepared. So I learned a long time ago that if I'm having those little voices in there, it's not because I got a weakness. It's not because I'm frightened. It's not because of anything other than I haven't thought of those in advance and prepared for them. And they're coming up because I have a fantasy and I'm blocked out all the negatives and I've only seen the fantasies. The fantasy is a positive without a negative. The nightmare comes in to balance it, to bring them back into balance. So when I finally realized that many years ago, I got that savvy. I realized I don't want to ignore that doubt. I want to use that doubt to refine my package, my objective. And that's planning. And that's Alan McKenzie in his Time Trap wrote a beautiful piece on that. And by doing the planning and seeing that and knowing what is highest in priority for you to do and delegating the rest expedites the whole process. So you do the planning so you can delegate, because otherwise you're trapped doing stuff and you're having to do stuff that's not inspiring, and then you're having to be motivated to do it, and that's not how to live. Motivation is a symptom, not a solution for human beings. And delegation and prioritizing something that serves people. If you're not doing something that absolutely serves people, that is something that people will pay for to be able to make your vocation your vacation, you're going to be sitting there having Monday morning blues, Wednesday hump days, thank God it's Friday because the week freaking ends all the time. And you're going to have anxieties because you're going to be searching to escape that doldrum to go on for a fantasy. That's why most people want to get a vacation. They want to get a break. They go to Starbucks and wait 30 minutes in a line. They want to get a long vacation. They want to escape. They live vicariously through other people's brands instead of building their own brands. And they hurry up and want to retire so they can die. This is not. The people I know that are inspired by what they do, they don't even think about retirement. They're busy. Bill Gates isn't thinking about retirement. Warren Buffett's not retiring. Charlie Munger's not retiring. I don't see Donald or any of the guys out there that are kind of out there in the world that really are doing things. I don't see them retiring. I see them. What else can I do? The wise individual pursues challenges that inspire them so they don't get trapped by challenges that don't. That's the basic game.
And if you can't speak to the importance of us having a vision for what we want or who we want to become, and then we can really kind of zoom in for people that are maybe struggling to find that vision or find that purpose in and of their life. So yeah, let's open up the conversation on vision and just the importance of having an aim that we're moving towards.
Okay, so every human being lives moment by moment by a set of priorities, a set of values, things that are most important to least important in their life. And every decision they make, every perception they make, every action they take is responsive to these values. These values dictate that. The hierarchy of your values dictates your destiny. And every decision is based on what you believe will give you the greatest advantage or disadvantage at any moment. Now, whatever's highest on the hierarchy of values and list of values, priorities that people have, is spontaneously inspired. You're spontaneously inspired to fulfill. It's just like a video game for a young boy who loves video games. He doesn't have to be motivated to do it. I don't need to be motivated to research and teach. I love it. But whatever's low on your value, you have to have motivation to get you to do it extrinsically. You need a reward or a punishment mentality. And motivation is never anything but a symptom. It's never a solution for human beings. It's always a symptom. Because it means you're going after something that's not truly important to you. So I'm not a motivational speaker. What's truly important to you is intrinsically called from within. You spontaneously want to act on it. Now, whenever you're living by your highest value, the blood glucose and oxygen goes into the forebrain. And whenever you try to live by lower values, your blood glucose and oxygen goes into the amygdala and the hindbrain. The one when it's in the forebrain is for thrival. When it goes in the hindbrain and the amygdala, it goes into survival. So any time you live in alignment congruently with what you value most, because the blood glucose and oxygen goes to the forebrain, it inspires vision, because that area of the brain is linked to the V5, V6 of the associative areas in the occipital cortex, and grabs you a whole bunch of information to help you see what it is that you want to create. Those with a vision flourish, those without a vision perish. People in the amygdala can't see it, but people in the forebrain can see it. They also have strategic planning. So you automatically see strategies on how to get what you want, to navigate through all the challenges and obstacles and mitigate the risk along the way. And it also has spontaneous action, which is an execution in the accessory motor cortex. And it also sends fibers down into the amygdala to calm down with glutamate and GABA. It calms down the impulses and instincts that distract us from what's important to us. So we maximize our potential to the degree that we live by what's highest in our values. And that's why determining what's really, 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 really spontaneously inspiring and important to you, and setting goals that are really high priority, and only those, is the key to having an inspired vision and allowing yourself to build momentum that's unstoppable. Because our mission, our teleological mission, is an expression of what we value most. Our ontological state of being and identity revolves around what we value most. Our epistemological desire to know and learn and maximize our learning potential is always around our highest value. So if you can identify what that is and fill your day with the highest priority actions that inspire you, your day won't fill up with low priority distractions that don't. And that makes you unstoppable and masterful at what you do.
So where does one get started with determining what their highest values are? I mean, are we talking, values necessary for survival? So, we have the hierarchy of needs, or is this going deeper and beyond in more of a philosophical approach to it? So yeah, where can one begin to assess what their values are?
Yeah, each individual, if you're in a third world or a country, you may be in survival mode. And so your values will be there. And if you're, traveling the world like I'm doing around on a yacht or whatever, then you may be in another level. But the point is, whatever your level of values are at that time, whatever's highest will always be at the highest. There's always going to be something that's high at every stage. And whenever you do, it tends to keep growing up. You tend to develop socioeconomically upward if you do. So there's a way of determining, because if you just ask somebody, what are your values? I guarantee they're going to tell you social idealisms, things that they learn from mothers, fathers, preachers, teachers, convention, traditions, and mores. None of that means anything. I'm not interested in what you say. I'm interested in what you live. I'm interested in how you fill your space and what is in your personal and intimate space most. Because whatever's in that you keep right in your space within reach is what's valuable to you. Everything else you push away. I look at what you spend your time on. You make time, find time, spend time on things that are really important to you. I look at what energizes you, because when you're doing something that's high in your values, your energy goes up. When you're doing something low in your values, your energy goes down. I look at where you spend your money. You always find money, spend money, and make money for things that are valuable to you. And it's where it's dispersed. And you don't have money. You don't want to spend money on things that aren't. I look at where you're most organized. I look at where you're most disciplined. I look at what you think about, visualize, and affirm internally about how you want your life that shows evidence coming true. If there's no evidence, it's a fantasy. And it's not. And if it's not something you're really wanting, it's something that's you're beating yourself up because you're trying to be somebody you're not. Then I look at what you want to converse with other people about. What do you want to converse and talk to people about most, and bring the conversations to, and engage in most? What inspires you and brings tears to your eyes when you think about it, and what's common to the people who inspire you? They bring tears of real inspiration to you. What is it that's the most consistent, persistent goals that you have been pursuing that you are showing definite evidence of achieving? And what is it you spontaneously want to learn? And what do you want to study and read and watch on videos? What do you want to fill your mind with? All of those, if they're answered with honesty, will point a pattern, a consistent pattern that will reveal what's most important, second most important, third most important, etc. And you'll get to see a hierarchy of values, not by what just arbitrarily you pick out of the air from some social idealisms, but what your life actually demonstrates. I'm only interested in what your life demonstrates, nothing else. Because if you set a goal that is truly most important to you, you'll excel. And many people bang their head against the wall, trying to be somebody they're not. Being second at somebody else is never as great as being first at being you.
And I think what you're saying there, it's like what you value the most. I think one of the greatest examples is we can look at drug addicts. Somebody that's got a heroin addiction or crack addiction. Like they wake up every single day with one focus in mind. How do I get money to get my next hit? It's like their highest value is figuring out a way to make money. And it's like if you could pass it along to entrepreneurs that struggle to like get a business off the ground, it's like we could pass along that clarity of focus, singularity of focus of achieving one goal in mind. So,
well, can I share something about that, Frank? Can I say something about that? In the hierarchy of values that we have, whenever we're pursuing the highest, we are most objective and most neutral in awareness, which means that objectivity means neutrality. We're not subjectively biased. We're just able to see both sides of things. But whenever we're doing lower values, we get less and less fulfillment. And we activate the amygdala. And the amygdala is a desire center. It's not the executive center, it's the desire center. And the desire center wants to avoid predator and wants to seek prey. It wants to avoid difficulty and seek ease. It wants to avoid pain and seek pleasure. So impulsive, compulsive, immediate gratifying, addictive behaviors are compensations for unfulfilled highest values. So usually addictions are a result of events in their life that were extremely painful that they're wanting to avoid, and they dissociate from that experience into something that makes them not have to feel that experience. And as a result of it, if they haven't seen how that experience is on the way in their life, they see it in the way, and therefore they're trying to dissociate. If all of a sudden you take those traumatic experiences that may have initiated the reason for the addiction and find out how it serves them and how it was actually a gift in their life and see it on the way, they automatically start to perceive things back in their highest values. And that is the area of the brain that actually calms down the amygdala and reduces the probability of the addictive behavior.
So I don't know if you recall this from the first conversation we had. I know I didn't share it with you today. In addition to running this podcast, so we have a company, Rebuild Recovery, that specifically helps men overcome pornography addiction. These guys are caught up in a perpetual cycle of chasing fantasies in pornography. They know that it's not right. They're trying to break it, but there's that addictive pattern, that addictive cycle. So with the discussion that we're having here, if that is the case, I'm always chasing. I know it's not right. I know what I want, but I'm stuck in the addictive cycle. How can someone break that?
The addictive cycle is a dopamine-driven, very commonly, an oxytocin-driven amygdala response. The nucleus accumbens lights up, and you get this addictive. And you won't find an addiction without a subdiction. A subdiction is some wound in their past that they're trying to escape, and they're trying to get a pleasure to compensate for it, to escape the memory and thoughts and ruminations of all the thought of whatever this was. Could be that somebody had a rough childhood or incest or some caught masturbating or who knows what it is out there that's driving it. And if you don't go and do high priority actions that are meaningful, you're going to end up in the amygdala. If you have a set of priorities in life, if you live by the highest priority, the executive center comes online. The executive center is responsible with glutamate and GABA transmitters to calm down the impulses and instincts, the philias, the phobias, the addictions, the subdictions. It calms it down. So if that addictor is not going after and finding something that's extremely deeply meaningful to it that they can focus on and inspire on, they're more vulnerable to their amygdala. I had a guy, I got to share this story, worth about $750 million at a multi-billion-dollar company, delegated it out, retired from it, and then went from a few social drinks to 18 to 20 a day. Drink. Became a slosh, gained weight, puffy, red. And his consultant was trying to get him to shift it, and he said, "John, I need help." So I got him on the Zoom thing. And I said, "All right, when did this really escalate?" He said, "It's about 2.5 years ago. It's just been escalating." I said, "What happened 2.5 years ago?" I sold my company. Okay. You're going back into work. He said, what do you mean? He said, you got out of your company because there were some parts of your company that you hadn't delegated and you were doing that were not fulfilling to you. He said, well, that's true. I said, what did you love in that company? He says, I'm a deal maker. I said, we need you back on the deals. He goes, nobody's told me to do that. Why is this? Because if you're not doing something that inspires you, that uses your executive center, that gives meaning to your life, you're going to end up being debaucherous and you're going to end up having drinks run your life because your amygdala doesn't have anything to shut it down. So I said, so let's go back in the deals. Let's close some deals. You don't have to own the company. Just tell them that I want to do some deals for the company, get a good commission out of it. You got more money than you know what to do with it, but get a commission. Find a philanthropy that you would love to do that's so meaningful for you. You don't want to be sloshed when you're participating in it. So we got him something that meant something, that really meant something to him. And it was an educational, he wanted to open up an educational, I guess you could say a school on a campus that he went to and build an educational, entrepreneurial educational program. And that brought him tears in the eyes. I said, so let's go out and do the deals. Last time you did deals, were you drunk? No. Did you have a social drink? One. I said, let's go do the deals. Let's go build a philanthropic entrepreneur college and put it in your name. And let's go make young people and then train them on all the stuff you've learned. Let's give them insights. And is that the guy that you want to come in as a slouch or you want to come in as a leader? What do you want? He said, that's the most inspiring, he get tears, most inspiring thing in my life. His drinking went to one or two occasionally after that. He had a cause. If you don't have a cause bigger than your obstacle runs your life. And the amygdala is a feedback mechanism letting you know that you've lost contact with the highest priority mission that you could be focusing on that makes a difference in other people's. It's bigger cause than yourself.
Man, I'm just lighting up. I don't know if you can see it on my face. I'm just glowing because, the work that I do is a byproduct of my own story. And I'm hearing this. It's like the mission came. It's like the story with the podcast. Like that was the genesis. And then that grew into Rebuild Recovery. No, I'm just thinking about all the men that we worked with and, the transformations and the testimonies that we've had inside of our program. It's like these guys come and it's like they think that they have this problem with pornography. In reality, they have a problem with fulfillment. They have a problem with service to others. They have a problem with purpose and passion. So when we begin to set them up and redirect them in life, not only does the habit with porn fizzle away, but it's like what they're able to create, more income, more reach, deeper relationships.
Sublimated. I guarantee you that if you get somebody onto something that's deeply meaningful to them, the porn is nothing.
Yeah. Now
we're blaming the porn really, but that's not the issue. It's the executive center's not on, and they're down in there and they're looking for immediate. If you can't fulfill your life with a meaningful purpose and mission, you're going to fill it with food, consumerism, porn, or shopping or something like that. You're going to try to consume and fulfill it by another means. Get that dopamine rush. That's just a symptom, though.
Now, what about a young man? This is something I'm beginning to come across here. Obviously we know pornography. I know this is not your world. This is mine. But the average age of first exposure to high, stimulating internet pornography is around 10, 11 years old. So as these young boys' brains are developing, many of them, I mean, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of them, are spending hours every single day. That's obviously having an impact on their brain. So is there anything that you can pull on or speak to in terms of like a young man's brain that's possibly been hijacked? Like, how does he break through and transcend this if literally his brain, same exact thing. Okay.
Same exact thing. I have porn is not I've seen most people. I've asked thousands of people, how many have you ever looked at porn? Almost everybody puts a hand.
Every single human being.
Person, they've looked at porn, but they may not be sitting there consumed by it. They're just looking at it. Okay. There's a guy from Australia that sends me sometimes. It's not porn. It's not hard porn, anything like, but he sends me beautiful pictures of girls. And I've known him for about 13 years, 14 years, maybe 15 years, something like that. And this all happened in the last 2. He's been doing it. He quit his job, retired. They got nothing else to do. Get young people to find out what their highest value is and get them onto something that's deeply meaningful. I have a girl who's now, let's see, she's 16. She started a fashion company when she was 7 and started doing drawing 7. By the time she was 11, she had 15 employees. And she was manufacturing goods. So now she's in a whole nother place in her life. and she's capable of doing something today that's powerful, she's not going to be sitting there looking at porn. She's not going to be. She's too busy doing something that's important and fulfilling. If you can't find something that's fulfilling, you're going to end up doing these other things. Fill it up. And or in moderation, if you can get it to be moderate and you see a beautiful picture of somebody or whatever, it's a stimulus. I'm not going to judge that. But the reality is, if it's running your life, you got nothing to fill it with. It's more important. Fill it with something deeply important.
So would this take us into your seven areas of life then? Is that where we would want to start spiritually, mentally, vocationally, financially?
Think about this. When you ask a girl, what are you looking for in a guy? I guarantee you, I've asked thousands. I mean, tens of thousands. What are you looking for in a guy? I'm looking for somebody that's fit. That was one of the most common ones. Somebody that's fit.
Hold on real quick. Men, get your pens ready because we got one of the world's experts literally interviewed thousands of women. Please share with the men what the women are looking for.
They would prefer a fit guy that looks like he's, got a little testosterone and, nice bod, wider shoulders, tighter butt, nice ab. They're nice smile, jaw. They're looking for a testosterone male guy. There's a whole spectrum of girls out there. There's a spectrum of sexuality today, but majority of them still like a good-looking man. They're looking for somebody that's intelligent. And they define an intelligent man as somebody who can understand what's important to them and talks in terms of what's important to them. That's important. So if you go up to a guy and you have a dream about having a family someday, and he goes, "Look at those beautiful kids. God, I wish I could find a woman that looks like you someday to have beautiful kids like that." He's intelligent. And then if he says, "You're the most beautiful woman he's ever laid eyes on," he's intelligent. But if he says, "Look at those runts. Oh, I've never have kids. Terrible," she'll think, "What an idiot." She's looking for somebody that can communicate in her values and help her feel fulfilled in her values. So she doesn't have to fix or change herself to be with him. She's looking for somebody that's got ambition, that doesn't want to just sit and maybe work at the gas station as a part-time job and live in a trailer house. I'm not saying that that's not a man, somebody who's going to fit that. But the point is that they're looking for an upgrade in society somehow. They want to go and do things. They don't want to shrink. I've never met anybody that wants to shrink. No one gets up in the morning and says, "I want to shrink my intelligence. I want to shrink my business success. I want to shrink my income. I want to shrink my relationship fulfillment. I want to shrink my social influence. I want to shrink my physical health and shrink my spirituality and inspiration." They want to expand. So they're looking for a guy that's intelligent, that's fit, that's somebody that's got ambition, that wants to go places and do things. They're looking for somebody that's got resources, that has at least as much money as them, not less, at least as much as them, most of them. They don't mind. They don't have to be a billionaire necessarily, although they won't turn that down. They just would like to have somebody that contributes at least as much of them, if not more. So they feel secure if they all of a sudden had children. And that's understandable. That's a scary thing for them. Then they're looking for somebody that wants them, that wants to zero in on them and not a player. They're looking for somebody that wants to, because they have a risk. If they have children, they have a risk. They want somebody that's going to be there for them, at least during the earliest times. So they're looking for somebody that really cares about them and shows that they do it, and that respects them and can banter with them. They're looking for somebody that can get along with all their loved ones and friends and family, and socially savvy and knows how to adapt to almost any social setting that they bring them. And they want to make sure that their friends think that wow, that's a great catch, a trophy. And they're looking for somebody that's inspired by something. You don't want somebody who's just depressed, bitching, drinking, and going into the amygdala. There's somebody that's got a life that is inspiring to be with. They want somebody with nobility, right? We want nobility. They want nobility. So when you look at that, what they're looking for, they're looking to empower the 7 areas of life. They're looking for a guy because that enhances their 7 areas of life. And that's why my new book, The 7 Secret Treasures, is about empowering those 7 areas of life. It's because you doing that increases the probability of attracting a mate that's, going to be on that same plane. And you deserve to get somebody that's matching where you are in life, not somebody you're subordinating to or subordinating to, but somebody that's a match. So I think that's all those 7 areas of life are something that we're here to empower. That's mastery. And that if you're doing one of those things and engage in one of those or multiple ones of those, you're less likely to be down in your amygdala. You're more in self-governance overrules amygdala's addictions. Addictions are signs of not being inspired by something so meaningful that you don't have time. You don't have time for that. I don't have time to go drinking and partying and socializing, porn. I don't have time for it.
Speak to that, like monetizing your highest value, or monetizing your, what you aspire to do. I run into this all the time. Like, Frank, I'm not you. I don't inspire to coach and create content. My purpose, like, what lights me up inside is video games, or is basket weaving, or whatever it is. Basket weaving is probably not the greatest example for our audience. But, a lot of people believe that, like, maybe they can't monetize their values, or maybe they can't monetize like their, what they feel is their deepest or highest calling. Like, speak to that a little bit, because I've heard you talk about this on some other podcasts, how we can make a living doing really anything.
If you ask 7 questions, maybe everybody can hear these 7 questions. What is it I would absolutely love to do in life? What does my life demonstrate I am spontaneously inspired to do on a daily basis that I love doing? Ask that question and be honest with yourself. Then ask yourself, how could I get handsomely and beautifully paid to do that? And don't go, I don't know. Don't stop. Look. Then ask yourself, what are the highest priority action steps I can do today, starting today and every day, that will move me in the direction of monetizing what that is? The next one is, what obstacles might it run into and how do I solve them in advance? Then ask what worked today and what didn't work today. And then the next question is how do I do it more effectively and efficiently tomorrow? And then the last question is, how did whatever happened to me today, how did it help me move one step closer towards that objective? Those 7 questions are very powerful. Now, I don't care what it is. Somebody out in the world has values and needs. They have needs that need to be met. It's about translating what you love to do into something that is valuable to other people. And the more value it has to other people, the more monetization you can make. It's that simple. I've yet to do it. Can I share a really wild story of one?
Absolutely.
I'm teaching one of my signature programs 20-something years ago in New York. I've done this program 1,135 times. It's a 2-day, 24 hours with me program on breaking through whatever you perceive in the way to getting what you want in life. And this lady is 29 years old, I believe, sitting right in front of me, right in the front row. And we had U-shaped tables, large U-shapes and another U-shape outside it. This girl was sitting right up in the front. So I picked on her. I said, so what is it you would absolutely love to do in life? And she goes, she didn't know. It was just like, put her on the spot. No, what would you absolutely love doing in life? What do you spontaneously do every day that you love doing? She said, spend time with my dog. I love playing with my dog. Okay, great. How could you get handsomely and beautifully paid to spend time with your dog? She goes, I have no idea. I didn't ask. You didn't have no idea. That's not the answer. You dodged the question. How could you get handsomely paid doing that? She goes, I don't know. I didn't ask that. How could you get handsomely paid to do that? And finally she said, he's really cute. People like taking pictures. Maybe I could charge for it. Great. What are the highest priority actions you can do right now to move in that direction? And she goes, da-da-da-da-da. We wrote down 6 or 7 things. And we started her on this journey of asking these questions. Then something really cool happened. She left the seminar on Sunday. And Monday, she took her dog walking in Central Park down the little avenue where all the philosopher, chairs are. And you go down where the fountain is, near the lake where the little boathouse is. So she's literally walking down there with her dog. And for the first time in her life, she never had the courage to ever ask anybody or tell somebody, if they asked, can I take a picture of your dog? She's always just let them take a picture. In those days, there were cameras. There was no iPhones. And so somebody came up to her and said, can I have a picture of your dog? And she said, well, that will be $5. And the person pulled out a $5 bill and handed it to her. And she walked home that night and told the dog, I said, you made your food keep today. You did good. Well, when that happened, she got a little creative. And she then went into the closet that night, sat on the floor in a little tailor position, rummaged through the closet, and found some red elastic fabric and also some elastic strip. And she got a creative idea, and she made a tube and sewed it into a tube that went between the forelegs and the hind legs. And then she made a little strap for some sunglasses that she had, And she made this thing where he could wear sunglasses that would hold it to his head tight, and this little tube on that was red that would make it where people would probably want to take a picture more. And then she practiced pouncing him up on the hind legs. So when he walked, he had sunglasses and a red outfit on, and people go, I got to take a picture of that. So she went into the thing and she made $15 the second day. $15. Now she's going, you're now making me some money. You're not just you're making your keep. Now you're making me some cash flow. So she got more creative and she started making different outfits for him that would draw attention. If you went online right now and you looked up Karen Beal, Karenbiehl, and you looked up her name, just type in her name and hit images after you get her name, you will see this little chihuahua in many, many, many outfits, from tuxedos to Hugh Hefner's robes to turkey outfits for turkey to Christmas outfits, the Pope's outfit. She started getting creative with the designs where more and more people wanted to take pictures. She got up to $125 in a day taking pictures of the dog. She got cards made that she was the agent of the dog, made him a celebrity to some degree. And a guy walks up to her and says, that was cool, man. I've been watching you here while I'm eating away something here. He said, look, I'm in marketing, and I think I could use your dog maybe in a commercial. And she said, well, I'm his agent. Here's my number. Now watch this. She did a deal with this guy for the Milk-Bone dog biscuit commercial for $2.2 million. She did 2 other commercials. You can go online and see all this. You look up, his name is Eli, the little dog. She did 2 other commercials. Then she turned that into 3 television shows, a series for moms and dogs, mommies and doggies it's called. That dog became one of the most famous dogs next to Gidget, which became the Taco Bell dog. And she ended up retiring 20-something years with $25 million. I mean, she made $100 million to have her retired to $25 million out of the dog. And the dog died, and she got another dog to replace it. That dog died, replaced it with another one, and kept him 3 generations. Nobody knew the difference. But she made a fortune out of the dog because she asked quality questions. The quality of our life is based on the quality of the questions we ask. And I'm not saying to go out and get a chihuahua right now to make your fortune. I'm just saying that that's the least likely individual you would think to be able to become financially independent. But that one set of questions led her on a new path of how to live life. So she was doing what she loved, and she had a blast. They ended up getting a big penthouse in New York in the dog's name. The dog owned the penthouse. I mean, it was amazing how they organized the thing. So it's good publicity. So this just goes to show you that if you ask the right questions and you don't come up with, I don't know the answers, but you come forward and look and get creative what you can do. Because there's always something you can do that can serve another human being. If you care about humanity, to care enough to find out what their needs are and articulate what you do in terms of those needs, the door of opportunity financially is there.
Now, some of them appears like these are almost questions you can ask yourself every single day. How can I improve tomorrow? How did it get me closer to my goal? What worked? What didn't work? But the bigger ones, like what I want out of life, like how often are you asking yourself some of these earlier questions? Is this a process you do daily?
Put it on your bathroom mirror.
Got it. Okay.
Right next to your can. You're sitting and looking at it right in the door there. But I don't use the word, you mentioned improvement. I don't ever use the word improvement. I use the word refinement to more effective and efficient pathways of action. Improvement is a moral language, and moral hypocrisies trap people. They make the terms success and failure instead of man on a mission. I'm a man on a mission. I don't pursue success because it breeds failure. It makes you fear failure. I don't want a one-sided thing. I want a two-sided thing. So improvement is trying to get rid of this and try to get that. I'm refining it because I learned from both. The very thing you do that's successful, that makes you proud, humbles you. And the very thing you think that you did as failure lifts you up. Success is a depurposing state of mind. Failure is a repurposing state of mind. If you stay focused on purpose, you don't distract yourself by those two. Those are feedback systems to guide you back to authenticity. Because the second you get proud, you set too big a goal in too short a time frame to humble you. When the second you feel shamed and failure, you set too small a goal in too long a time to build you back up again. They're homeostats trying to guide you back to a man on a mission. A man on a mission, a man with a purpose is something that's bigger than success or failure. People say, well, you're a success. I don't call myself a success. I'm a man on a mission. There's thousands of accomplishments, but you may call it success because that's the total end of your goals, but it's just the beginning of mine.
Why is it important for us to pay such close attention to the words that we speak?
Well, our words are basically either injected things from others, and we may not even realizing who our mentors are coming from. A lot of times we subordinate to people. We don't really know them. We just set up a fantasy of who they are. And then we think, oh, I should be that way. I ought to be that way. I'm supposed to be that way. Need to be that way. Instead of, is that even sensible? And is their life really the life that we're striving? I'm a firm believer not to put people on pedestals or pits, put them in your heart. Whatever you see that you admire them, stop, identify what specific trait, action, or inaction do I perceive this individual displaying or demonstrating that I admire most? Pin it down, write it down. Keep it to 5-word answers. Then go inside yourself and go, all right, John, where and when do I perceive myself displaying or demonstrating that behavior already in my life? And I guarantee you, I've been doing this for a long time, 37 years. I have yet to find an individual that can't find what they admire in others inside themselves. The same thing as you despise. Whatever you despise in others is within you, but you're too proud to admit it, but you have it in there and you feel ashamed of it. That's why they're bugging you and you're resenting them. When you admire somebody, you're too humble to admit what you see in them inside you, but you have it, and that's why you're admiring them. When you can uncover where it is, you won't envy them, you'll thank them, and you'll stand on their shoulders and do something greater. But if you sit and envy them, you'll minimize yourself, and then you'll expect to do it in their form, not your form. And your hierarchy of values dictates your form, and their hierarchy of values dictates their form. You're not here to be them. That's why Emerson said, envy is ignorance and imitation is suicide. Don't be trying to be second at being somebody else. Don't be a second Elvis. Be a first you.
I asked this question last time, so I'm curious how your answer is going to compare. I say the title of the show is The Superhuman Life. I believe we're here for a purpose, but we must show up intentionally and aggressively in our actions every single day, and that's what it means to create a superhuman life. So Dr. John Demartini, as we bring today's conversation to a close, how would you define living a superhuman life?
A superhuman life, I think living life to the fullest as a human in today's world is a superhuman life. Taking the capacities that we all have and taking them to the utmost and fulfilling it by prioritizing. That's why I say prioritization. If you stick to priority, you're doing the most any human being can do, and you build momentum towards ever greater achievements. And other people will label you superhuman in the process.
Amen. Guys, check it out. 7 questions to improve your life. Check out the Demartini Institute. Do the values assessments. Get clear on what you want most out of life, and then create the vision and create the plan to make it happen. Guys, we love you so much. Make sure to leave us a 5-star rating and review. We appreciate you guys. For Dr. John Demartini, Frank Rich, we'll see you guys next week.